There is no such thing as an impossible dream. The only impossibility is believing in impossibility itself. For most of your life, you've been taught to look at the world, to measure it, to obey its limits. But I tell you, the world you see is not reality. It is only the shadow cast by your assumptions. You think manifestation is about getting something, wealth, healing, love. It is not. Manifestation is becoming something. It is assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled so completely that the world must rearrange itself to mirror your inner conviction. Let me ask you, when you pray, do you ask or do you receive? When you imagine, do you merely hope or do you live within that imaginal act as though it were already real? Most people fail to manifest not because their desires are too big, but because their faith is too small. They see evidence and surrender. They call it logic, reason, realism. But I call it blindness, the blindness of forgetting who you truly are, consciousness itself. In the moments before sleep, in the silence between your thoughts, you hold the same creative power that shaped the stars. And yet you use that infinite power to imagine lack, to assume limitation, to worship impossibility. Tonight I want to show you how to reverse that habit, how to use your imagination as God intended, not to escape reality, but to create it. Because once you understand this law, the law of assumption, you will never again ask if something is possible. You will know it already is. A woman once came to me in tears. Her son had been missing for 3 years. The police had abandoned the case, friends had stopped calling, and even her priest told her to accept reality. But she refused to let despair become her truth. And so she came to me and asked, "Neville, what can I do?" I said, "You can do what every creator must do. Assume the state of your desire fulfilled." She stared at me as if I were mad. "How can I believe he's alive when every fact says otherwise?" And I replied, "Because facts are not final. Assumptions are." Every night before sleep, she imagined her son's key turning in the lock. She felt his arms around her. She breathed in his familiar scent. She lived inside that moment, night after night, until his absence became the dream, and his return became her truth. 6 weeks later, she called me, sobbing with joy. Her son had reappeared. He'd been living under another name, lost in amnesia, and suddenly his memory had returned. Now listen carefully. This is not a story of coincidence. It is a story of consciousness in action. The world does not create your state. Your state creates the world. When she stopped asking, "Where is he?" and began to feel, "He is here," reality conformed to her assumption. So the question is not whether the impossible can happen. It already has. The question is, can you dare to feel it real before it appears? Because if you can, you will watch impossibility dissolve like a shadow under light. A man once came to my lecture in a wheelchair. His doctors had declared his case hopeless. A spinal injury had left him paralyzed from the waist down. They told him, "You will never walk again." He could have accepted that verdict. Most people do, but he decided to accept another truth, a higher one. He said to himself, "If imagination creates reality, then I must imagine differently." So each night, before falling asleep, he imagined himself walking, not as a dream, not as a wish, but as an experience. He felt the ground beneath his feet. He felt the air moving across his face. He felt the rhythm, the sway, the effortless joy of movement. He made this imaginal act so vivid, so real, that sometimes he would wake up startled to find himself still seated in the chair. Month after month he persisted, not in hoping, but in knowing. Everyone said he was delusional. The doctors shook their heads, but he understood what they did not, that imagination is not fantasy. It is creation in its earliest stage, and then, slowly, the miracle began. Tingling sensations, small movements, strength returning. Within 18 months, he walked again. The medical journals called it unexplained. I call it fulfilled assumption. This man did not fight his condition. He transcended the state of mind that created it. He did not try to make the impossible possible. He rose to a level of consciousness where impossibility simply didn't exist. And that is the essence of this law. You do not change things. You change states, and the world reshapes itself accordingly. Now, what would happen if you dared to assume the state where your greatest desire is already real? Faith, as I speak of it, is not belief without evidence. Faith is evidence experienced inwardly before the senses can perceive it outwardly. Most people wait to believe until they see results. But I tell you, you will never see them until you believe, not intellectually, but emotionally, imaginatively. A young man once attended my lectures with what the world called an impossible dream. He was a janitor in a small office, cleaning floors at night, yet he longed to be a film director. Everyone laughed. You have no money, no education, no connections, they said. But he understood something profound, that impossibility is a story the mind tells to protect its comfort. So he changed the story. Each night, as he cleaned those empty rooms, he imagined he was on a movie set. He felt the lights, the cameras, the tension of creation. He didn't think about becoming a director. He thought from being one. He cleaned as a filmmaker between projects. This shift was invisible to others, but seismic in consciousness. Within 3 years, his first independent film premiered and won awards. Did the world change first? No, he did. Understand this. You don't manifest by forcing reality to bend. You manifest by becoming the one for whom the desire is already fulfilled. When you live in that state, persistently, faithfully, serenely, the world must obey, because it is not the world that holds power over you. It is your assumption that commands the world. And yet, few have the courage to persist when evidence contradicts them. But that courage, that persistence, is what turns the impossible into the inevitable. Now, you understand, to manifest the impossible is not to conquer the world. It is to transcend its laws. You are not a creature begging the universe for mercy. You are consciousness itself, clothed in flesh, momentarily pretending to be limited. And every assumption you hold about yourself, about life, about what is or isn't possible, is the seed from which your world grows. So tonight, I ask you to look at your deepest desires, the ones you've buried under logic, fear, or realism. Ask yourself, what if these weren't impossible at all? Dare to assume their fulfillment. Dare to feel the joy, the peace, the relief as though it has already happened, and persist even when nothing seems to move, because the moment you assume it real, creation is complete. The bridge of events will unfold naturally, and the world will simply catch up. Impossibility is not a condition. It's a perspective, and perspectives change the instant you remember who you are. You are not here to wish, to hope, or to wait. You are here to imagine, assume, and know. For when you know, truly know, the impossible becomes inevitable. So tonight, as you drift into sleep, don't ask when your desire will come. Ask instead, who am I now that it's already mine? Then feel that answer so deeply that it carries you into dreams. And when you wake, the world will have changed. If these words have stirred something within you, share them. Someone out there is still believing in impossibility. until they hear this truth. Thank you.